I sentence you both to this same exile. An exile into the future.
What?
Silence, General Katana!
Hello and welcome back to our channel, guys. It's time to go down the rabbit hole that is the Highlander franchise. You know, the entire series, mainly the movies and shows, basically revolves around building the hype about the gathering, game, the prize, and rules. Everything is unraveled step by step in this world. For starters, one doesn't even know they are immortal till they wake up from the dead one fine day. And Quickening? Oh boy, we got a whole movie on that one. But to be fair, they did explain most of the stuff, though some of the explanations were pretty complicated. Yet, there's one thing the makers never remotely talked about. Who created the rules for the Immortals? I mean, there has to be a source that says do not fight on holy ground, right? Because almost every Immortal, barring a few extremely rogue ones, actually adheres to these rules like some absolute command. Still, the big question looms as to who was the original creator of the 11 rules of the game. And that's my job here today, to come up with possible theories about how the rules came to exist in the first place. In the theatrical cut of the second film, Highlander 2: The Quickening, we got an elaborate backstory as to how certain individuals ended up on Earth as immortals. It went something like this. 5 centuries ago, there was a distant planet called Zeist, which was under the leadership of General Katana. However, as his katana's reign grew increasingly suffocating, a version of Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez led a rebellion against him. He and his followers met secretly and chalked out plans to avoid General Katana's suffering. Ramirez told someone among them who would guide them. The man then drew his sword and let the Quickening choose one man of great destiny who would feel the buzz. And of course, that was none other than Connor MacLeod, who was tasked with carrying out the mission against Katana. Keep in mind that Ramirez had some sorcery-like powers and used Quickening to create a bond between him and his fellow rebel, Connor, that could not be broken even by death. He told Connor that whenever he needed him, the latter should just call him, and it actually worked when Ramirez came back from death in the movie. Yes, it was attributed to the medical powers of Quickening. Again, Katana and his troops, however, found them and crushed the revolt. Ramirez and Connor were arrested and put on trial by Zeist's priests, who sentenced them to be exiled to Earth, where they would be reborn as immortals, chasing the prize. The victor would then have the choice to either grow old on Earth and die, or return to Zeist with their past crimes absolved. A later version of this movie completely scrapped the Zeist part for an ancient Earth timeline, but that's not part of our businesses today. If we stick to the origin of the Immortals from Zeist, then it's possible that the priests who decided that they would have fought one another to win the prize must have been the ones who set the rules. It was pretty clear that they had the ultimate say when they angrily silenced Katana trying to interfere in their verdict because he wanted to execute Connor and Ramirez. It's thus absolutely possible that when the Zeistan priests exiled them to Earth, they gave them a set of terms and conditions to follow while participating in the game. In fact, that actually makes a little more sense if we bring the holy ground restriction into consideration, because as priests, one of their primary concerns was not to demean God. In fact, in a European cut, it was the priest who first uttered the phrase "there can be only one." Next up, we have Ramirez himself as an option. It's possible that when he and Connor were being exiled to Earth, the older, wiser man drew this list of 11 rules because he understood how nasty the game was going to be. Thus, Ramirez tried to come up with at least some principles that would save the Immortals from pouncing on each other the moment they locked eyes. However, since the creators messed up their own story, we got Methos as the oldest living Immortal. He was the one who was properly established to have been living for some 5,000 years in the spin-off Highlander the series. And there's the interesting part. Methos was also a member of the Watchers. The Watchers was an organization created by Amalatu the Akkadian after he saw the warrior Gilgamesh come back to life. Different cells of Watchers were set up all over the world to keep an eye on Immortals in their own territories, and to recognize each other, Watchers used to wear medallions decorated with this as their organization symbol. However, in modern times, every Watcher gets the same symbol tattooed on their inner wrist, usually in blue ink. They have been present for ages, generation after generation, and have quietly observed the Immortals, keeping a record of their lives. The Watchers were meant to stay completely under the radar so the general public wouldn't hunt Immortals out of fear or ignorance, and keeping their existence secret also protected them against corrupt Immortals who tried to force them to spill sensitive info on others. It thus stopped an evil Immortal from winning the prize. In a way, they protect humanity too. In the first episode of the second season of Highlander the series, titled The Watchers, Joe Dawson states, "For as long as you kind's been around, we've been watching. We observe, we record, and we never interfere. Too much much of man's history has been lost. When you go through all of life's crap, the only thing that matters is the truth. We want the truth about Immortals to survive, not a bunch of old wives' tales. It's possible that ever since the game started, and the Watchers began supervising the Immortals, they realized how threatening the entire thing was to mankind. I know, they are not supposed to interfere in Immortals' lives, but maybe. They came to negotiation with Mythos and through him passed on the several rules of the game to ensure safety of the common public as well as the Immortals. I mean, it's a wild guess, but it's something. It kinda adds up if you think that the rules were never written down and were just passed on as an oral tradition aligning with the oath of secrecy sworn by the Watchers. Also, thanks to a fanfic, Just a Game by Parada and Night Sky, which mentions that Mythos himself laid down the rules. But then again, Mythos has claimed that he himself does not even remember the beginning of all of it. Last but not least, maybe some Immortals, wanting to make sure no one tried to rule over normal humans, came up with the whole idea of the game and the gathering along with the rules that govern them, just to keep Immortals focused on each other instead. Or maybe they found it through trial and error. Sorry, this is me trying to be funny. But hey, some good people on the internet do mention about a fanfic which states that the Immortals just happened to stumble onto them. One day, two Immortals kept fighting each other until one chopped off the other's head. And that's how beheading as the only way to kill an Immortal got established. Anywho, it's all conjecture, but I definitely had fun coming up with these ideas. Alright guys, that's all for today. To be honest, it bugs me a little to not know the source of something, but that being said, I understand a big part of Highlander's charm lies in mystery. So do let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this video, don't forget to click on the bell button. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.